Have you ever done something that changed your life forever? Dave met his wife. That changed his life forever. But for me, it was a trip to Africa. And I'm an Iowa boy. We did get out of the country once. But I have a photo I carry with me of a little girl, and it was the day I met Rosemary. We had gone that day to an orphanage in Africa called Smile Africa. And at that orphanage, or at this location, they feed 300 or 400 orphans every day. And they feed them one meal of rice in a bowl. They cook it up for them that day. And the kids come together. I think we've got a little video of the kids there in the orphanage. Let's go ahead to that, if we could. I'm sorry. There we go. So little Rosemary grabbed my finger that day and toured me around the place. She'd run off every once in a while to do something. We had brought squirt guns and hula hoops and things the kids were playing with. And then she'd always come back and find me. And at that time, I didn't know her name was Rosemary. I had a picture of her that I carried with me. So I sent the picture over to Africa. I said, "Who is this little girl? I have to find out who she is." And little Rosemary was at that time 4 years old. You can see her. There she has a little bit better dress. This is a little tattered dress that I met her in. Her mom and dad were separated, divorced, because he had beat her mother. And both parents are unemployed. She now has another guy living with the family, but he's not there all the time because he has another family that he lives with most of the time. So the mom does odd jobs just to have enough to get a little bit of food and things that they need in the family. But Rosemary loves to sing and dance, loves the color yellow, and wants to be a nurse when she grows up. See, many kids as orphans don't live to be 5 years old. I got a notice the other day from a family celebrating the birthday of their child. And see if this thing's going to fall off or if I'm going to mess with it. Yeah. And on that birthday announcement, they said, "Our little girl made it to age 2. Now, who sends out a notice about a birthday and says, "My child made it to age 2"? We're usually celebrating, okay, at 2, they're getting ready, they're thinking about preschool. But they made it to age 2 because when we first started doing ministry over there, 50% of the kids died before the age of 5 from waterborne diseases, and it was traumatic. I wanted to tell you a little bit about Hope for Kids while I'm here, and let's go on to the next slide. Hope for Kids started in 1973. It was founded by a gentleman from Iowa named Tom Egham. I think he and Lee had connected in the past. Tom was from Thompson, Iowa. Last night I was up at Forest City, and we had a big event there to raise money to do a deep water well in Uganda. And Tom grew up there. He started by smuggling Bibles to Russia and China. So he had quite a history. He smuggled into Russia until they caught him there and locked him up, and then he said, "Well, how about China? That's got to be better." So anyway, has had a great history of serving, and I want to tell you a little bit more about Hope for Kids. So let's go to the next slide there. Yeah. So our 4 pillars for Hope for Kids are dignity, health, joy, and love. And our mission is to restore hope around the world by empowering kids to break the cycle of extreme poverty through these 4 principles. And our key verse here is from James 1:27. Religion that God our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress and to keep oneself from being polluted by the world. Let's go to the next slide there. This is a picture of Tom, our founder. I don't know how he worked this out. He's speaking today in Arizona, and I'm speaking today in Iowa. So I don't know. I think I'm down the totem pole. No, but he's a great gentleman. He actually lives in Oklahoma now and still travels with Hope for Kids in many different places. Let's go on to the next one there. We, along with child sponsorships, we do short-term mission trips. Like I said, Uganda, we go to Cuba, Guatemala, Mexico, the Philippines. We're doing a Romania-Israel trip this year. And they just got back from India and Nepal, the group that was over there. And our teams travel over to be the hands and feet of Jesus, delivering essential supplies. I know they took water filtration devices into Nepal and distributed some medicine there as well. And so we've done great work. Let's do the next slide there. So this is some pictures of some of the teams that have been traveling with us over the last couple of years. I said maybe I'd pull my earlobe, but she's got it there. And here we do some projects. That's my brother Paul painting in the middle there a few years back. But well dedications and medical outreaches we do. Here is me at a school. And you thought I was the President of the United States. I'm very popular. For many of these kids, they've never seen a white person. And so many of the little kids will come up, they'll rub your skin to see if underneath this white is some other color that they recognize. And so the kids are very fun. We had some balloons that day. Go ahead and serve them. Here we're doing a medical outreach. Usually we do 4 or 5 of those on our trips. Tom there is distributing vitamins, and we also do well checks and also some triage work if we need it. Let's go ahead. One of our biggest pillars is safe water, and like I said, half of the kids could die before the age of 5 because of unsafe water. And it isn't just the pollutants in the water and the diseases they can catch. But look where she's having to dip that from, down in a hole there. And so many times the kids get in trouble on the way there and back. Somebody might grab one of the girls and rape her on the way. They get in trouble. Kids have fallen into the water source and drowned. But let's go on to the next one. Here's a little celebration of a new well here. So to date, we've done over 680 wells, 687 it says there, deep water wells. And these are 150, 200 feet deep, so they're a great source of water. They serve 3,000 to 5,000 people in a community, and they're all hand pump wells. So remember, I had one outside the farm where I grew up that we'd pump for fun, but here they pump to provide clean water for the village, and they serve thousands of people. The one I saw, it was between the village and the school, so both entities were going to benefit from the well there. And along with that, with clean water, oftentimes we take a small swimming pool and do baptisms right there. Here's a young man that was baptized at a well dedication here. Another part of what we do is we call Adopt a Village, and this village is adopted by a church over in near Forest City, and there's the old school to the left, and this is what they actually remodeled and built a new section on this school. And they asked the kids, what are things that give them hope in their life in Uganda? And they said 2 things. Jesus, their faith in Jesus is one, but also education. And so we're strongly engaged in helping provide education to the kids over there. This is a school called Nyafumba. This is adopted by a family down in Arizona that has done a great job building, started with a well, and they built a church and school facilities. They're just bought more land behind this. Is going to be a secondary school back there. And the issue in Nyafumba is there's 13,000 kids in elementary school, this school and lots of others. There's only 900 high school spots. So imagine in Spencer, oh yeah, your kids got through elementary school, but we don't have room for them in high school. And that's a severe need, is that secondary education for the kids so they can break that cycle of poverty. This is a 27 acres that we bought in Uganda here last year. And on that will be a secondary school, a vocational school, medical center, our headquarters, and a sports complex. And I think, go ahead to the next one. This is kind of the master plan for that. We're in the process of doing the vocational school right now. It's being built. And also our headquarters building over there. So it's going to be a great service. We have about 30 staff on the ground, the locals in Uganda that serve. We have about 2,500 kids in child sponsorship, plus the wells that we're doing over there. So that local staff does a great job executing this. I talked about Rosemary enjoying the feeding program, and we partner with Feed My Starving Children. Have some of you packed meals for Feed My Starving Children? They pack those meal packs, manna pack they call them. In fact, I just saw yesterday they finished one in Minneapolis, 2 million meals they packed. We're an authorized distributor, so we ship those meals over to Uganda and Guatemala and other countries to feed children. And a great verse from James reminds us, if a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, oh, depart in peace, be warmed and filled, but you do not give them the things which they need for their body, what does it profit? Thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. We have a partnership with an NBA player. His name's JaVale McGee. He's a center for the Lakers. And here JaVale is folding himself over to feed these kids. He drills a well over there every year and travels over to dedicate that well. And so cheer for the Lakers if you can, because we're excited about our working with JaVale. And he has really come to appreciate the work that he gets to do serving the kids and drilling these clean water wells, but also he has a heart for Jesus, and that's good to know. Yeah, this is the meals that they get. Let's go again here. And we are recognized as a charity on Charity Navigators, and we take very seriously the management of the funds that we receive and to make it go as far as we can. We do child sponsorships. It's one of the basic pieces, and I brought 10 kids that need sponsored. If you're interested today, $31 a month helps them with their education, health care, food, and emotional guidance. But our sponsorship in Uganda has about 2,500 kids. Throughout the globe, in all our other areas, about 3,000 total kids are sponsored. And like I said, education is the key. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. And here is little Rosemary, and I think we have a picture or video of Esther and Ruth are my other two sponsored little girls.
I got Esther and Ruth jumping
Here they
rope
are.
here. Look at this. Like two wonderful rope jumpers. Look at that. Hey, they're doing really good. Oh, good. So we're out here on the lawn of the hotel. We got all the sponsors and the kids together. Spend a little time visiting, chatting, playing together, little soccer going on, and all kinds of fun. And already some tears for saying goodbye. They're gonna have to go here pretty quick. And they've made arrangements for all of them to come in. And now they're gonna have to all head home this afternoon. So I want to tell you one more story. Well, I'll probably have several stories, but one right now.
met a young man while we were over there. His name was Savio. Savio was going to be a sophomore at the university. He's going to get a degree in logistics. And Savio was a sponsored child. So he stood up and told us a story about his life, that his parents were both gone, and that he had been adopted or sponsored as a young child. But with tears running down his cheek, he said, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have this opportunity if it hadn't been for the sponsorship, that somebody believed in me enough to give me that hope that I needed for the future. But we want to say a great big thank you. I want to also got a few more slides to tell you about here. But thanks to Faith Lutheran. You guys played such a great part in our lives in those years that we were here. And so many of you have become friends. We are thrilled to be back here. So thank you for pouring into my and our family's life while we were here. Let's go on to the next. Tanya is sorry she couldn't be here, but she checked the temperature and said, well, maybe I'm not going to come. But let's see, make sure I get on the right page here. Okay. I wanted to also say thanks from our family. Let's go to the next one. Here's the Sorensens in Arizona. Mom and Dad are doing okay. Dad just turned 89. He just told me that he hid a set of keys in the apartment, so if we take his car away, then he'll still have a set of keys to drive. So it's getting to that point. Mom's doing okay. You know, she's in a wheelchair most of the time, but doing okay. She's feeling better, and we know that because she's starting to correct Dad more. You know, so that's kind of the signal. But I wanted to show you an old picture here of the Sorensen family growing up. And I don't know if you know much history about the Sorensens. Mom and Dad here, and my brother Paul and I, a couple years ago. I tell Paul we both have blonde hair now. But we grew up on a farm in southwest Iowa. Great place to be. For those of you that grew up on a farm know what farm life was. It was never a lack of something to do. Always great friends around, great things to do. But I didn't know that if you knew that our family had a drug problem. And most people don't know that. My parents drugged me to church, drugged me to Sunday school, drugged me to Bible camp, drugged me to church meetings. And so I didn't really, they didn't really tell me how to live. They showed me how to live. And so our family really was on a mission to serve God. And they got that, you know, that came from their parents. You know, my grandparents both were church people, and they didn't talk about it a lot either, but they lived it, and that's what made a difference. My parents also reached out and adopted a foster daughter, or didn't adopt her, but brought in a foster girl that was in high school. And I remember my brother and I were about this big, and she was in high school, and it was not an easy time. Not the easiest thing for them to do. And they weren't trained social workers, trained foster parents. They just knew there was a need and stepped up and did that. Also, when we were younger, my parents talked about being missionaries in Bolivia. My brother and I didn't even know where Bolivia was, but we knew it couldn't be good. We knew there was things there that we wouldn't have that we had in our home, and we were pretty sure there wasn't a football team like Harlan in Bolivia, so we were worried about that. And then Mom and Dad stepped up to be directors at Okoboji, and Dad had served on the board there. And for those that know the history of the camp, it was in pretty tough shape when they went there. And they stepped up to be directors. Mom was a school teacher. Dad was a farmer / building houses, and stepped up to do that. And it wasn't because they were trained or expert camp people. They just loved God and loved God's people. And so they began another mission in part of their life. And that was kind of in our DNA, kind of who we were. And it was for a time such as this. And I have a picture of Esther and Mordecai. Do you remember this story of Esther and Mordecai? I'll try to tell it the best I wasn't there, but I think I know most of the story. Esther was adopted by Mordecai, and when they moved, the king said he wanted to meet all the virgins. You know, he's looking to expand his harem. So Esther came and met the king, and he selected her as the new queen there. Well, there were unseemly people in that area that wanted to get rid of the Jews and get rid of Mordecai. Haman was the main bad guy, and so Haman concocted a plan that all the Jews would be killed. And Mordecai went to Esther and said, well, maybe you're queen for this very reason. Maybe God put you right in the middle of this for this very purpose, for such a time as this. And so Esther intervened for the Jews. The Jews were saved, and Haman ended up being hung on the same gallows that he was building to kill Mordecai and the Jews. And I always think about that story as I think about where God has me and where he wants to use me. That God is very much more interested in my availability than my ability. He wants me to be available. And I think oftentimes I don't have my antenna up, and then I'm not really seeing what God has, the opportunities that are around me. Again, you know, mom and dad weren't trained, but they were willing. And the other two people that were in their life as we were growing up, they brought in 2 hired men. Dad really couldn't afford hired men, but these guys needed the work. Richard and Roger were both alcoholics. And so the adventure our family was on with those two, I got to go to prison too, to go see them. And they were oftentimes drinking. My brother would often get a headache just smelling their breath. And so we were well trained about the perils of alcoholism by watching their lives. But so oftentimes Dad would pay them on a Friday, and then by Saturday night, one of them was in jail at the local county jail for getting in trouble in a fight or something. But they would go in and rescue them, bail them out, and that became an opportunity for them to minister in their lives. God has planted us each in different places. We've each been sent on a mission. And so the key point here that I think we have to remember is that helping others helps you. Helping others helps your family. Now that sometimes we get a little inward focused in our lives, and we think, well, I don't have the means, I don't have the time to help other people because we have so many needs right here. But that outward focus in our lives helps us as an individual and helps our family get a vision for serving God. There is a God component built into each one of us, and either we recognize it or we don't. We don't always like where we're planted. We don't always like sometimes when we're uprooted to somewhere else. But as we peacefully seek God through those situations, we can see that journey is a continuation of where he wants us to be and who he wants us to reach out to. This verse in Ephesians 2 is so good. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus, to do good works which God prepared in advance for us to do. You know, I've always been amazed at trying to understand God, because I think in linear terms. You know, yesterday was yesterday, tomorrow's tomorrow, and time goes in this straight line to the future. God isn't bound by that constriction. He's working in the past, he's working in the present, he's working in the future, and many times we look back and we say, wow, that looked really terrible back there, but look where God has me today. That situation looks like it couldn't bring anything good out of it. But look, out of that where God has me today. And there's such a relief in my mind to know that he's got my back, and he's got my front, he's got my future, he's got my past, that he's working in all those places. The Lord said to Abraham that he had a plan, that he was blessing them so that they might be a blessing to others. And here's some verses. The Lord said to Abraham, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. You will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse them. And all peoples on earth will be blessed because of you." Abraham was blessed to be a blessing, and so are we. We are blessed in our lives. If we live here in Spencer, Iowa, or Arizona, we are blessed, aren't we? I mean, the many things that we have. We're not fighting for water every day, like these kids, or one meal a day of rice. We are blessed. But we're blessed to be a blessing. So the key point I want to share with you next is that you don't have to go to Africa to help. That there are many things right here in Spencer that you can do. Look right around you. The opportunities abound. There's people everywhere that need someone to step up, someone to help, someone to make a difference. Open your eyes and your heart to what God's doing. And I challenge you to create a drug problem for your family. That good kind of drug problem, okay? For such a time as this. For this reason, I kneel before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and earth derives its name. Pray that out of his glorious riches he may strengthen you with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that you, being rooted and established in love, may have power together with all the Lord's holy people to grasp how wide, how long, and how high, and how deep is the love of Christ. And to know this love that surpasses knowledge, that you may be filled to the measure of all the fullness of God. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than we ask or imagine in every situation, according to his power that is at work within us, to him be the glory in the church in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. And the last picture here, I think, is a child holding Tom's fingers here. And that was little Rosemary holding my finger as she walked me around. So look around you. Take your family on a mission. Make a difference. Create a real drug problem that you can share in the future with your grandkids and say, hey, our family had a drug problem growing up, and make a difference right where you're at. Thank you for inviting me back here. I so appreciate it. And